All right. So what's bothering me today, and it's probably going to be the subject of today's video, there is a Amazon warehouse or a fulfillment center in, I think it's Brampton, Ontario. And Public Health Ontario is trying to tell them to shut down the entire plant because there have been 240 cases of COVID-19 at this plant alone. It's an outbreak, and pretty much an uncontrolled outbreak, because Amazon, as we all know, doesn't actually care about workers. And so they're trying to get them to shut down this plant and asking all like 2,400 or so employees to self-isolate for 2 weeks. However, knowing capitalism, I don't think that that's going to happen. And so this is going to lead to just even more outbreaks in this corner of the GTA, and it's going to suck. And that's what's bothering me today.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, I'm sure even if they'd say, oh, you need to self-isolate, they're going to have to like not be paid for their time away from work or whatever the situation is. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, because again, Amazon is a terrible company. I don't think they're going to pay them while they're off. The serve that people in America love to keep occasionally talking about, like, oh, look what Canada did. That dried up months ago. So lots of people are still suffering now, which is why the cases haven't really, like, they are trending downwards now, but lots of people had to go back to work in unsafe conditions, and it's led to this really convoluted second wave up here, and it sucks.
Yeah.
Absolutely sucks.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking going into this, because I know you're from Canada, is that I was going to say, oh, well, let's hear what a country that could have done this correctly did, but it sounds like, you know, everybody's dealing with issues and mismanagement.
Yeah, I mean, like, so here's the thing. I'm still pretty happy with how Canada handled the early response. What Canada has absolutely bungled is the follow through. And this is especially perplexing when the Canadian government, by its own admission early on in the pandemic, said, oh, you know, we're hearing from experts and officials that this is something we're going to potentially be dealing with for 12 to 16 months, or sorry, 12 to 18 months. So they knew that this was going to be a serious issue for a year and a half. And yet the provisions that they put in place to try and soothe and pacify the Canadian population were only designed to last for a few months. And what's also very troubling is that, like, the current government, the Liberal government of Justin Trudeau, they had decided initially to be very conservative with their approach. That serve that people love to say about, oh, look, Canadians are getting $2,000. It wasn't all Canadians. The only reason more people got access to it is by the actual only left-wing party that we have, the New Democratic Party, or the NDP for short. Mm-hmm. They're the ones who fought and threatened to bring down the government if they didn't actually support Canadians. So right now, Canada's in what's called the minority government. It means the current party, the Liberals, don't actually have a majority of the houses of the seats in Parliament. But so long as they have the consent of the House of Commons, they can continue to govern. So it meant that they needed the support of one or two other parties to pass legislation and not be taken down and thrown into an election in a pandemic. So the NDP made their support contingent on actually helping Canadians. And that's why more Canadians got access to the CERB, the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. It's also why a lot of people in Canada who were working and then couldn't got the emergency wage subsidy, which saw the government pay, I think, like 75% of the wages, so that a lot of companies, especially small businesses, could afford to keep people on and not have to rehire and retrain people down the road. So the NDP did a whole bunch of good things like this, or rather they pushed the Liberals to try and do good things like this. And so the Liberals relented and implemented those. But now that's ended, and the Liberals are saying, oh, well, no, now we can't do this other stuff. And the whole vaccine rollout is terrible. And they're saying it's provincial jurisdiction. And it's a mess. It's not as big a mess as America, but then again, like, no offense to the Americans here, but that's a really low bar to clear. You know what I mean?
It is, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's tough. Like, they, you know, when you're up against the opposite side of the apparatus saying they want to do nothing and they want, you know, us to just go about business as usual and risk the lives of the population, when that's like their talking point, and we're just like, give us something, and then we have to kind of meet in the middle of that, we don't get much. I'm still waiting on my stimmy check, supposed to come in this weekend, they said. So
I wouldn't count on it.
no, it's we just, Biden in the US, we just signed the new stimulus package. So
it's official.
It's official. I think some people have already gotten the money, $1,400, which is obviously we should be getting $2,000 a month back pay for people who are really struggling, but it's something. I'm lucky I kept my job, so I mean, to me it's just a little bit extra money. I don't need it. If they were able to give it to the people who really need it, but I understand means testing ends up making sure that people who do need it don't get it. So I'm very much in favor of all these checks going out, but 1,400 is, it really is a slap in the face that they've given, a couple $1,000s, which is in most cities maybe a month or two of rent, when people are months behind on rent, bills. Yeah, exactly. So it's the US is a nightmare, and I mean, I think the stimulus package is good. There's just so many things that they just could have done better that they didn't. For instance, like with the unemployment benefits, I think is through September, great. It could go through, it could be good till then. We could be somewhat back to normal by September, but probably not going to be. And it really should have been more of until the unemployment rate or maybe some other measure reaches almost back to what it was before the pandemic, unemployment benefits go out weekly. Instead, we're dealing with, okay, if September rolls around and we're still dealing with, a raised unemployment rate, Democrats are going to have to go back and fight again and try to extend it even longer, when if they did it against like a economic measure, it would be a direct fix. And I even saw dummy Ben Shapiro was like, oh my God, September, that's insane. September, we're already back at 6% unemployment. And I mean, hopefully Ben's right. Hopefully by September, things are back to normal and the unemployment benefits went too long. But he would have nothing to say. And people like me, who's like, hey, September might not be long enough, would have nothing to say if they just did it until unemployment reached back to close to 1% like it was before, or maybe some other measure. Because obviously unemployment is going down, but there's people who are making, maybe $30 an hour before are now making 10 because they just had to get a job. So there's all kinds of issues with this, because that's one of my main things. And obviously the unemployment also they had the issue with contract workers, specifically where I live in Nevada, and I'm in the comedy world. I know people who didn't get, who made a living doing stand-up comedy, who were not able to get their unemployment even though they were supposed to. They passed the thing like the PUA unemployment stuff, and I know people who still didn't get it a year later now. And so I just think that it's not just a cut and dry, like, okay, unemployment is back down to 1%, everything's back to normal. It's like, not exactly. I mean, we've seen billionaires' wealth grow by $1 trillion, and the middle and lower class is not.
Funny that, right? Like $1.9 trillion flows away from the lowest percentile of Americans, and then the top 1%, or like 1% of 1%, see a $1.9 trillion increase in wealth over the course of the pandemic. Man, what a weird coincidence. But on the subject of unemployment, that reminds me of something, and I'm glad you brought unemployment up, because just saying, oh, look at how low the unemployment rate is, that doesn't tell the whole story. It doesn't tell the quality of those jobs, if they have benefits. Sure, someone is unemployed, but that person is working 2, sometimes 3 jobs just to make ends meet. And because they're all just usually part-time jobs, or they're, a full-time job that just doesn't pay enough. And then someone has to take a second part-time job. And in neither of these cases, they're getting benefits or being able to save for, a future, for retirement. Forget buying a house in these days. That's another thing, right? I've seen it before, where a lot of Americans and even Canadians up here don't have enough savings to cover an emergency. Like if an emergency came up and they can't pay rent, they become homeless. You are one bad day away from total oblivion and ruin. it's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
So this idea of, oh, well, look how low unemployment is. Okay, yeah, that's theoretically great, but what does it actually say? And to just really prove how much of a huge nerd I am, I actually took a statistics class in high school. And one of the first things that teacher told us was that it is super easy to manipulate statistics or to misinterpret them. So you can make it show what you want. You can retrace different conclusions. There's also that saying, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. And yeah, that was one of the few things I actually learned from that course. So whenever I see things like, oh, look at how high the deficit is. Okay, that doesn't tell the full story, even though it is bad. Look how low unemployment is. Okay, that's good, but it doesn't tell the full story, right? So I'm really glad you mentioned unemployment, because it's not worthwhile to say, oh, look, we're back at 1% unemployment. It's not like that time before the pandemic was great for a lot of Americans, right?
Yeah, and two things on what you said with the statistic stuff. It's so true that you can interpret statistics or spin them to whatever you want. Literally watch any conservative talk show and see how they use statistics and see how it's lies for the most part, or it's correlation does not imply causation, specifically. And then when you mention benefits, I think is crazy as well, because I don't know if you know about this that we have in the US, and this is good for everybody watching, is Cobra is this setup we have. Do you know about this? The insurance Cobra?
I've heard of it, but I don't know much about it. But I have heard the name Cobra beyond the whole G.I. Joe, Cobra.
Yeah, exactly. So you guys have universal healthcare, obviously, which is, something we can aspire to. It's not perfect, obviously, but yeah. So we, get most people get their insurance through their employer. And if you get laid off or fired, then you lose your insurance. Coverage. Exactly. So there's this system called Cobra where when you're fired, you're able to keep your insurance, but instead of only pay, because most people, their employer pays like half and they pay like half, or some people even have even better than that, like their employer pays a good 80% or something. When you get fired, you pay the full 100% with this Cobra program, but otherwise you wouldn't even have insurance at all. So you're like, okay, I guess I have to pay what I was paying $50 a month before, now I'm paying $150 a month or whatever. That's Cobra. So ridiculous. In the stimulus package, they've made it so that the US is going to cover the Cobra payments, both sides. So people will have free insurance if they're laid off from their job through Cobra.
That's good.
Which is good, but it's inefficient in my opinion. They could just put these people on Medicare or, institute universal healthcare for these people. Even if they started it like that, where they're like, okay, anybody who's been laid off, you get universal healthcare for 6 months. And then we're like, wait a minute, that was a good thing. Maybe we can extend that to everyone forever. That might be like, they just don't want that to happen. They don't want the a little bit, give us a little bit and we'll take a mile. But because it's just so inefficient for them to be like, yeah, the Cobra bills, we'll pay those, and then it'll go to the private market and this and that, when they could literally just be like, oh, we have a healthcare system here in the US that does cover everything. We could just give you a Medicare card. Instead they're having to go through this completely ridiculous Cobra system. So it's insane.
Yeah, and what's also weird about that is that you'd still have to pay 50%. So the way it works, right, is Canada has quote unquote universal healthcare, which means if I break my arm or have an allergic reaction, I can go to the doctor and I don't walk out with a bill. But certain things like your pharmaceutical medication, mental health is of course not covered. Dental care is not covered. Eye care is usually not covered as well. So what ends up happening is that these are the benefits, and including physiotherapy and stuff, that companies will cover in their benefits package if they offer them. So I'm not going to say who I work for, because just in case someone tries to mess with my life or anything, but I have a pretty good benefits package where I work, and I recently got a full-time position there, so that'll mean even more benefits and like a pension and all this stuff. But even just working part-time at this place, I had access to benefits where I did have to pay like some out of my paycheck, but it was something like 10%. The company covered 90% of like physiotherapy, mental health services, or no, mental health is what I have access to now. But they covered like physiotherapy, dental, and vision care. So that was really good to have just as a start. And so it's kind of also shocking to me to hear that you have to pay 50% even though you get benefits. Like it's such a weird system that you guys have down there.
Yeah. With your pension, do you have to pay into that out of your paycheck, or do you just have automatically like some of it goes to a pension? How does that work? Because we have 401k where I take out probably like 3 or 4% of my paycheck, and my company will match that amount. So again, it's like I'm paying 50% of my pension.
Okay. Yeah. So what you can do is you can do something similar. So you have pension contributions, and hopefully the company will match those. So you can choose different tiers. Like I choose to put in this much, or put in the max amount that I can contribute for a pension, and then the company matches that. But I don't know much beyond that, because this is really just the first place I've worked at where I've had proper benefits. Okay, I'm seeing that we also have some donations in the chat. Michael McAllister just tipped $3, so thank you, Michael.
Hell yeah, thank you. I have to step away for 1 second. I'll be right back.
All right, sure. And apparently Lord Fritus or Frituse, I'm probably butchering that, they also donated, so thank you. Thank you everyone for supporting what, like, this is so weird because this should not be a thing in a civilized society that we have to support, but we don't live in a civilized society, and so we must support it. And I thank everyone who's donated so far, and to Michael and Lord who have just donated now. Thank you both so much, and thank you everyone else for being here. This is just really fun. We're nearly halfway to our goal with 30 hours to go. So this is going to be a lot of fun. And that reminds me, I haven't made my donation. So here's another thing that I can sort of shout out. On my channel, because I was 150 subscribers away from 2,000 subscribers, I said that if I hit 2,000 subscribers by the end of March, I'm going to donate $150. And then like the day after, I found out that I got the full-time position at work, which means more money. So I said, well, you know what? Now that I'm going to get basically double pay, let's just double my charity donations. And I said that I would give $150 to DocMidnight's stream here. So nice. You take over again, Evan. I'm going to quickly mute myself and go and donate $150.
Hell yeah. Love it. Yeah. And everybody should be donating. I'm going to give a donate. Well, he's doing that now. I'll do one at the end of the stream, an undisclosed amount. It's not going to, I don't think it's going to be quite $150, but I'll be donating something. I have to look at my funds. If the stimmy hits before the end of the stream, I'll be donating a little bit more. But yeah, definitely donate to this this great cause, everybody. Let's see, what are people saying in the chat? There you go. Here's the donate link right there. We got Little Proletariat was killing it this morning. I was watching a bit while I was waking up. Good guy. Check him out. And what else we got? I could never live in Australia. You guys got too many animals that can kill you. I mean, I don't know, what country are you in? I am Redson, because there's some killer animals all over. America's pretty wild. We got rattlesnakes out here in Vegas. They're scary to me. I could never live in America. Too many cops who could kill you, and other guns. Yeah, facts. But yeah, I'm so happy they've already raised over 1,000. But yeah, we got to reach that 2,500 goal. I think by the end of this hour. We need to make a big push right now. I get everybody's in here, and some of you might have donated already, but if you have or haven't, I think a good move is to text somebody, because somebody who might not be on Twitch, be like, hey, we're just doing this thing, it's fun, raise a goal, even if you throw $1, it helps, because even if you put the number as that low, sometimes people are like, hey, you know what, whoa, socialist audio file just tipped $100. What's bothering me today just tipped $120.23. This is what I'm talking about. Hell yes. Socialist audiophile, major shout out to you. And what's bothering me today, we knew it was coming in with it, but it just got doubled pretty much. Currently waiting on my lifeline, aka that stimmy. Yeah, of course. This is amazing.
Stimulus is whack. And yeah, I want to point out to people, and I also have a really good heartwarming story to share with people. This is what class solidarity and mutual aid looks like, and it feels so great.
Yeah.
And I actually have this very personal story from here in Canada. About 6 weeks to 2 months ago, an old friend of mine from high school, we haven't really seen or talked to each other much since then, just because life has been different, but we're both very much left. I'm basically an anarcho-communist, but he's a full-blown communist or Marxist-Leninist at this point. The little proletariat wants us to both dab as a thank you. I think I can do that.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do
that. Yeah, and so he's grown up, he works, he has a family, and they were living in an apartment, and unfortunately there was an electrical fire in their apartment, and thankfully they survived and they managed to save some crucial things, but a lot of it was gutted. But because of the community and friends and family, overnight, between his friends and other people, overnight, children's toys flooded in, and $4,000 were raised within 24 hours for not just him, but other residents in the apartment who were affected by the fire. That is the power of organization that people have, and showing solidarity in these dark times. And it didn't matter that, half these people weren't communists or leftists. They were just people who needed help, and they got the help they needed. This is what society should look like, and it's so frustrating and bothersome that it doesn't. Oh, we just got another donation from Claydonius. Hey,
$10.
Sweet. Donations are pouring in now. Look at us, Evan. We're awesome at getting donations from people.
Yeah, I mean, you saw that little pitch I did. That's all you got to do is a little bit of call to action.
Yeah, there
if
you
we
go.
Just talk, people forget. If you do a little reminder, just peeling back the curtain for everybody. Little call to action.
Yep, donated a cool $10. Hell yeah. And look at that. Look at this. We're over halfway to our goal with 30 hours to go, and we got so many great content creators coming down the pipe. This is great.
Yeah. I think our goal right now, we have about 25 minutes left in our hour. We should probably hit the goal by that point, is what I'm thinking. We should probably hit 2,500. So if you want to give credit to people like us, if you want us to get a little bit of boost, like, oh wow, Evan, Fonzie, and What's Bothering Me Today, they really did some good work on during their hour,
Hell yeah.
I'm
a casual comrade collaboration.
I'm Redson says they're donating $100 if the stimmy hits. Where is it? Because some people said they got it already. And I mean, I feel the same way. Let me check. Let me look at. I've been checking because I saw yesterday people were like, "Oh, direct deposit hit," which because people always get their payday on Friday. I actually got paid. I get paid twice a month, so the 15th and the 30th. But yeah, I still haven't gotten that stimmy money. Yeah. I'm on SSDI on my last. Yeah, I don't know about that.
For a while I qualified for CERB because of my last job, and so it was kind of like this weird thing between EI and then switching. Like a lot of people who would have applied for EI just applied for CERB, so it's kind of like they were mesh together. And at the old place I worked at, they said, yeah, this is what we're going to do, because otherwise you wouldn't qualify for the emergency wage subsidy because you haven't been working with us long enough. So you'll go on EI, which will basically be the CERB, and then you have however months of that CERB, and then you do continued reports for EI until you get your job. So I still have to do, I think, 1 or 2 of like my tri-week, like every 3 weeks I'm supposed to submit reports. And so I think for like, I have the one that I still need to do, and then for the next one, is that'll be for the week when I finally started working a full-time job. That's probably when they'll say, okay, you no longer qualify, you're off EI. I'm like, cool, send me the bill for like future tax keeping purposes, and then that should hopefully be done and dusted. But for a while, the CERB was very helpful. Like, I'm naturally an introvert, so staying at home here in this office is fine. But it definitely felt good not to have to worry about paying rent and food, and was, because my expenses are pretty low already, I kind of just saved up some of the CERB money because I knew I'd have to pay it back. So it's kind of just sitting there to pay back the government. But it just felt so good to actually have that ability to properly save up more than, you know, because before that I had like over $1,000 in my savings account, which apparently is more than most people, but still not a whole lot, right? Like that would deal with maybe one bad day, but I couldn't deal with a bad month. You know what I mean? So that was definitely refreshing, and just further made me realize, like, I was in favor of UBI before, but now it just makes me realize, yeah, we should totally have been doing UBI for years now. Get people's safety and security. And, you know, if we love capitalism so much and people want to buy things, well, guess how people buy things? With this money that you keep hoarding. Like, this should be logical, but they're not.
Yeah. I don't know why that the $1,000 in the bank reminded me of this joke. One of the comedians I know, and he's based in Santa Cruz, California. This guy's named Sam Weber. He's a left leaning comedian. He has a funny joke where he says, you know, he was at like a bar or something, and he went up to the ATM, and the previous person's receipt was in the ATM, and he saw they had like $1,400 in their bank account, and he's like, I thought to myself, wow, this guy's like a millionaire. And just like, he's like, for someone to have $1,000 equals $1 million. And I feel like that's honestly a relatable thought for a lot of people when you see that much in a bank account. It's, you know, but I thought that was a funny joke as well. Check him out, Sam Weber. I don't want to steal his joke and not give him credit.
Hey, that's great. Always give credit where credit's due. I definitely get that. Again, I'm pretty fortunate in my position now that I have, you know, full-time job with benefits, pension plan, all this stuff. So I'm not going to give it up if it can be avoided.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same, but I'm lucky with my current position, but yeah.
But, you know, it's just so weird when, you know, you see some of this other stuff, right? Like, I feel thankful for what I have in terms of my savings in my savings account, and I do have an RSP. I like never check it because I like don't contribute to it because I'm still pretty poor, all things considered, at least right now. So, you know, it's still a bit of a struggle, and I don't feel wealthy or middle class at all. And sometimes I see some of these people and hear of other people in business, the insurance industry, or people like Jeff Bezos, where they make so much money in a single day. Like, there are some people out there who make in one day or less than one day than I make in a year in gross pay. Never mind what they take away for benefits and government taxes and all that, which is just like, if I was making that kind of money, I would be donating and tipping so much everywhere. I just do not understand this level of greed and selfishness. If I was as rich as Musk or Jeff Bezos, I would end the humanitarian crisis in Yemen. I would end homelessness. I would end poverty. World and child hunger would no longer be a thing. And I would
instead
do all
they
that
just
and
adopt
still
these
have billions left over that I couldn't spend. I'd be like, damn, I solved all these terrible problems, and I still have $20 billion. And that's what one of these guys can do, and they choose not to. And yet they have millions of fans and ardent supporters saying, well, no, they earned that, and, you know, Musk is totally humanity's Tony Stark, and he's going to save us by sending us to Mars. And it's like,
Yeah.
like Musk has great branding, I'll give him that, but in terms of actually being smart, he's smart as a businessman. He's not the one designing and building the rockets.
Yeah,
He's
his
hardly
wealth
the one
is
who has
built on
half
the
the
work.
ideas. He's just
Yeah.
like buying the rights to other people's ideas and
Yeah, and
branding them really well and making them
employing
profitable.
engineers, all this stuff. Yeah, it's built on labor. You know, as with any person's wealth, it's built on labor of thousands, if
Yeah,
not tens of thousands. Yeah, it's
which is why, my comrades, worker co-ops are the way of the future, because, and I'm not even making this up, if companies like Apple were worker co-ops, the average worker pay would be over $400,000 USD.
wow. Yeah, and
That's the kind of wealth we're dealing with here.
yeah, it's a joke. And I mean, obviously, you selected the richest of the rich, the Elon Musks and the Jeff Bezos, but anybody who's in the like hundreds of millions category, they just start to adopt these like absurd hobbies to just spend their money. I watch Shark Tank just for, you know, I know it's obviously whatever, maybe people, you know, I could hate capitalism, still enjoy a good reality competition show. And they you know, the guy Mr. Wonderful on that, I don't even know if he's a billionaire, but he's very wealthy, you know, obviously he has like hundreds of millions. And he's like, oh yeah, my olive oil collection. He just had, you know, it's like not even a wine cellar, he's got an olive oil cellar. It's like, yeah, these people do not know what to spend their money on.
Okay, here's the thing. I've learned that the rich spend their money on frivolous shit, and I know this because I used to be involved in that. I don't often talk about a lot of my previous jobs, but one of my jobs that I did for the summer, but like between college one year, it was a really weird random thing that I got access to, and I was recommended because I had actually worked in like a pretty nice Italian restaurant that had very fancy wines. And so I wasn't a sommelier, but it was like my job to learn the various different types of wine and from the different regions, and to recommend them to rich people. And so many times, even at this restaurant that I had worked at before, people would just want the most expensive bottle of wine. But if you actually want the best bottle of wine, especially from, for example, 2012, you actually want to look at Chilean and Portuguese wines. But everyone's like, oh no, I want like the super fancy French wine from Bordeaux. It's like, but that was a shit time. Like,
It was a bad year. Yeah.
because it depends on like the climate and where they are and the bottling process. I also lived in Spain for a while, so I learned even more about this there, but that was unconnected to this. And I learned that if, you know, red wine goes bad, this is how you can salvage some of it to get red wine vinegar if your batch goes wrong. And so just the sheer volumes that are being produced, and rich people wanting to, you know, taste their olive oils, their wines, their fancy French cheeses. There's also so much stupid stuff that they'll spend their money on, like super rare parking lots. For example, in Hong Kong, China, getting parking spots for your Audi is like $54,000. But if you're a wealthy millionaire in Hong Kong, it doesn't matter, right? So
Yeah.
they don't care. To them, that's pocket change. And I'm sure to most of us in chat, $54,000 is like a year's pay or more than a year's pay. Like it's craziness. And yet this is how many people, especially the wealthy in the world, live. They love, the wealthy love their yachts, they love their cars, and some just love to collect certain things. A relatively wealthy relative of mine in America, he loves to collect guitars, for instance. He's got like 20 guitars, some of which cost thousands of dollars. So
that's a cool hobby, though. You know, that's cooler than olive oil.
Yeah, and he you know, likes to play them, he likes to show them off. So okay, like that's a little more relatable, but still pretty obscene, right? Like you have that kind of money to spend on guitars and store them and display them. Like you're doing more than okay, my guy.
Yeah. I'll get like envious though, because I'll watch like, you know, YouTubers who review camera equipment or whatever, and I just see they have like a wall of equipment behind them that's mostly just been given to them by brands, but I'm like, oh, that would be nice. it'd be nice to just have that, you know.
Yeah, well, actually, speaking of like brands and content, there's this mug, but it's not a brand. I do own the trademark. A
Oh,
friend
wow.
of mine like made the trademark because like I'm also into alternate history, so this was sort of like a what would a communist candle look like instead of a hammer and sickle.
Mm,
So we came up with this.
that's cool. Nice. Yeah.
And I liked it so much that I decided, oh, you know what? I actually want to put this on like a mug for streaming purposes and whatnot. And if people are interested, then I'll do a limited run. But that means I need to actually trademark it with Canada. So what's the price? He said, okay, well, you know, I'll sell it to you for X dollars and just cut me in on like some of the profits. If it becomes successful later on, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I said, sure, okay, sounds great. So I paid him for his work, and then I paid the trademarking fee, which was more than I paid for the art. Fucking government. And yeah, so now it's mine, and this is now just a little mug that I've created. Used a local like mug printing shop. They printed it on both sides, and so yeah.
You could sell that as an NFT now.
I guess.
I'm just kidding.
If people are interested, sure, but like I don't think I'm anywhere near large enough to do merch, but I do have an idea for merch if and when I reach 3,000 subscribers on YouTube. Right now we're just on the push for 2,000, so it's a ways away, which gives me time to actually plan stuff out and talk to suppliers and stuff like that. So I'm not in a rush or too worried, but it is something I'd like to do in the future at some point. But now that I've started a full-time job, who knows how much time I'll have to devote for that. So
yeah,
we shall see what the future holds in this crazy time to be alive.
Yeah, I see some people are saying they have a few different collection. People have guitars, and yeah, I built Social's Audiophile builds guitars. Sparrowhawk has 5 guitars, but none of them cost more than 500. Yeah, I mean, I think it's still cool to have hobbies and collections. It's just once it gets to like really extraneous things like olive oil. When I go to the grocery store, I buy olive oil, but I'm not, I don't have a cellar. But I do I have a vinyl records collection because that's something my brother and I were into for years, and over the last decade or more, I've amassed somewhat of a collection. And some of them when I bought them were brand new, and now they're worth more, which is fun. It's kind of a fun thing, but we're not talking about a $3,000 bottle of olive oil because I just find that to be ridiculous.
Yeah. Meanwhile, like one of the best olive oils I had was Arbequina olive oil from the region of Spain that I was living in at the time, working as a teacher overseas. And it was just like an off-the-shelf brand, but it was just delicious because of the type of olive, the Arbequina olive. I just thought, yeah, like all this stuff is so dumb. Some of my favorite wines have been like less than $10 bottles of wine from California, Australia. This whole notion of buying something just because it's quote unquote worth a lot of money is so dumb.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was pretty heavy into sour beers when I lived in Northern California. There's like a few good sour beer I don't know, I guess distributor. I'm blanking on the word out there, and you could buy it there. There's one place which I recommend anybody who's in the Santa Cruz area. It's called Sante Adarius. It's that you can go there and buy one of their bottles for like, I think like $40, no more than $40, but you could resell them online for like hundreds of dollars because you could only get them at their one location there. And I mean, I just thought to myself, I would, they're really good. I would never pay hundreds of dollars for it. I'll just go next time I'm in town.
Right? Like, sometimes you really gotta question how smart humanity is sometimes.
Yeah.
Or how rational or logical we are.
Well, it's like I said with the NFT stuff. I mean, I was kidding, but that's a really. Have you heard about this? It's kind of big in the last couple of weeks talking about these NFTs. It's like, you know about this?
No.
Okay, it's like a new crypto art, pretty much, where you have like people can sell like, okay, this work of digital art that is like exclusive, it's only one, there's only one in the whole world, so it because it has like a unique identifier, so it's just a JPEG, but the fact that they have this one unique identifier for it makes it exclusive. And people, I think Kings of Leon sold their new album as an NFT for like $6 million, and it's not like no one else can listen to the album, it's just this person has the like clout of, I have the NFT one. And this is like a big thing. Mark Cuban selling his tweets as NFTs. Everyone's just trying to do whatever they can, sell whatever they can as NFTs.
Can I sell exasperation? Because if so, I'm gonna be a fucking.
That's what I said. I'm like, if I could sell my soul as an NFT, I would.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and I mean, it's.
Hi everyone. Here's what's bothering me.
Yeah,
today.
yeah. Maybe you should probably do a video about this, honestly, because it's absurd, and it's making a mockery of the whole thing. I mean, it's just showing how ridiculous the free market can be. Is just whatever, you know. All right, a tweet. All right, I said a tweet about NFTs, and now it's an NFT itself.
Why does everything need to be commodified? Oh, don't like your existing family? Here, buy this new family in a can and you'll have happiness forever.
Yeah.
Let's commodify the air, the water. We're going to commodify sunlight now. Oh, sorry, these blinders come down in your apartment. To access premium sunlight, you need to pay the surcharge fee every month of $50 or whatever it is, because like I'm waiting for terrible shit like this to happen. I say it jokingly, but I know in my heart of hearts that this is the natural progress of late stage capitalism, where everything gets commodified, and I hate that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Unregulated or unchecked, that's where we would head to. I'm hopeful that we could go in the other direction, because I just think, you know, one of the first steps of like dismantling this overtly capitalist structures, you know, things like utilities, like you said, sunlight. I think power, water, gas, and like what's it called, internet should all be not profit driven markets, like to start with. I mean,
it should be a utility.
It should be a utility, and they should all be not even, I don't know, I think they should just be completely publicly regulated, not in the private market whatsoever. I mean, because I'm not full on into I mean, I've always said I'm open to ideas, and I've read some Marx, and I think he has some great ideas, obviously, but I'm not full on like complete dismantling of the entire structure. But I think, you know, we can work our way to there, and I think the beginning would be things like that, and taking those out of the profit driven industry. It's same with healthcare, and there are certain things I think those can be the beginning. And if we fight for those individual things, people might be like, wait a second, this too, it doesn't make sense for, you know, food to be profit driven, you know, all these things are necessities, and then we can, you know, expand from there. But I think something like power and utilities, there should be no profit related to something like that. It's just it's a necessity.
There's key things that, in terms of like how the modern world and society function, that should be just given. So in terms of the basic necessities for not just like human life, because I like to create a distinction between life and existence. So lots of creatures are alive and exist, but what we usually tend to define as life involves things like forming relationships, job, finding meaning, purpose, satisfaction. That's life, right? So in terms of the basics of the human condition that allows for us to exist, we need, in order of priority, air, water, food, shelter. So water, you know, clean air, some form of housing. Like, do I need a 5-bedroom house in the suburbs? No, I'd be pretty happy with a 1-bedroom apartment somewhere that has working, running hot water and reliable power and internet. So those are kind of like the core things. But in terms of other stuff that allows us to live our life, in terms of socializing, working, that whole infrastructure that allows our current society to operate, those should be seen and held in the public commons because that is where they're used. We need the internet to be a public utility. We need power, like you said, to be a public utility. Things now, because more people are living in cities, things like public transit should be a public utility, not a corporation. Public transit should not be seen as a business. It should be seen as a service. These are other things that help to the betterment and enjoyment of life. But beyond that, then you also need proper things like adequate pay, unless we live in, the ideal utopia where, we don't need money or anything because all needs are satisfied by the community because we're just producing so much. So no one needs to work for their food. We have enough food. Yeah, don't worry about food. And if you want to work, you can work whatever job you want. Like, I actually have a friend. She's an artist and a very capable artist. People have actually probably seen, whether they realize it or not, her work on commercials and various TV shows, including some very famous ones. She's done work for these companies, and she likes it, but her dream job would be owning a little coffee shop and being a barista and having just a small dedicated customer base and serving people good coffee and homemade baked goods and interacting with customers and satisfying the needs of the customer. That is what she'd love to do. But she's got a house and she's got to make payments for that house. So she's doing this job, which is not her dream job, but at least it's something that she does enjoy doing. But, that still shows that there's lots of people out there who would love to be doing what we consider, low entry or low skilled jobs, but they want to do it because there's something about it that they really like and enjoy. But because our society is set up that we need to think about profit and paying bills first, this ruins it for a lot of people. And we wonder why so many of us are unhappy, because we're commodifying everything and we need money for everything. So we're stuck in jobs that people don't want. And like, so many musical artists and poets have covered this since, the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. It's, I'm a factory man, and oh God, it's so terrible drudgery work, but I got to do it for my family and bills. It's like, what if you didn't have to worry about that and you just worked in a safe factory condition for a few years as your part to better the state or the empire or whatever it is that you're working for? Like, that would be a better system, but we don't have that because of capitalism and greed. And I am a very frustrated and bothered boy this morning.
Yeah, it's interesting, specifically like you said, housing, because again, I mean, I don't know if we need to completely get rid of every aspect of the free market. And I think if you want to own a 5-bedroom house, like maybe I personally think you might have the right to do that if you earn that much. But I think the floor should be so much higher where, at the very least, you can get a 1-bedroom apartment. And I mean, I look to, because I had done some research on that homeless crisis and things like that. And I mean, I don't think Singapore is like a perfect country by any means, but their public housing structure is really impressive. They have just a complete huge system where they have almost no homelessness in the whole country because of this public housing system that are nice, new 1-bedroom high-rise apartments. And it obviously Singapore is very small. It'd be harder to implement it in a larger geographic country like Canada, the US, but it's still, I think, a system that we can look to say, hey, this is possible. An advanced country can do something like this.
Well, yeah, and the Gravel Institute has a video about, actually, since we're wrapping up here, I want to do a few quick shout outs, but the Gravel Institute released that video about Red Vienna when the socialists gained power in Vienna after the collapse of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and they just built a bunch of public housing that's still around to this day, and there's new public housing. And so in Vienna, people can live affordably in parts of the city, like not everywhere, but it's definitely made the situation a lot better for a lot of the local people. And in terms of Medicare for All, I want to give a quick shout out to Chill Goblin, who also got the stream kicked off last night with the Goat and the Goblin as they launched this on Friday night. He has a great video about how Canada got healthcare or Medicare. And I think that a lot of Americans should watch that because you'll see there's a lot of similarities to the current American struggle for that and how that happened. So there's definitely resources out there. People just gotta become aware of them and learn from previous historic examples and implement them here, or adapt ideas from other places and find a local way of implementing them, because no place is going to be the same, right? Like, what does the public housing crisis look like in Santa Monica versus what it looks like in Moncton, New Brunswick, right? Like, it's gonna be different, but it's still a problem that requires a solution, and it should be locally led and respected.
For sure.
And I just realized now we hit 12 o'clock. And speaking of 12, if someone in chat can donate like even $1, so we hit the magic 1312, we hit the magic ACAB donation number. Like,
yeah,
that would be great.
Donate. Yeah, I'm gonna donate a lot. So I might, I'll just donate $1 first, just so we can have the 1312 for a second, and then I'll donate some more just to finish it off. And if anybody wants to donate up to $100, I'll match any donations that come in right now in the next 5 minutes. So,
hey, you hear that, chat?
So feel free. This is the time right now. Let me throw this $1 in right here.
Do it.
Let me hit this. Right.
Also, while he's donating, and we see that now Aronok has joined us, which means it's time to pass the baton to the next person in this charity stream. Again,
I'm just changing the stream key, and then I'll be good to go. So
cool.
Should just be a couple of seconds, but I want to make sure it's
I'm
actually
just
correct.
doing a quick little shout out for stuff. So don't forget, people, you can click ! Donate to bring up the Streamlabs donation to donate to a good cause. It's people's action, because hey, power to the people, am I right? I'm What's Bothering Me today. I've been your co-host along with Evan Fonfa, otherwise known as the Fonzie Scheme, which again is a great name.
Thank you.
For a show. Like, that's amazing.
Hell yeah. Yeah, thanks so much everybody tuning in. Yeah, like you said, my name's Evan Fonfa, or you can find me anywhere on social media at Evan Fonzie, but don't worry about me. Just keep supporting this amazing cause, this amazing movement, and check out everybody that comes through here. Even if you've heard of them or not, I promise you, every content creator that is on this 48-hour stream is a talented, intelligent voice that is important to listen to. So thank you so much, everybody. Shouts out to DocMidnight, as always, just grinding, working for a great cause. And yeah, we'll hand it over to Aronok.